here it is, nighttime. I'm still awake. Tishulka. All sacked out in bed. He's wearing my hoodie. I'm serious, that's my hoodie. I think he likes it too. Tishulka, you like my hoodie? You're so tired. Well, I better get some sleep. Stimulaste. I know a lot of people have come to me and I tell them about using a compass, and they laugh at me and say, I have an app for that. Well, here we go. I put an app for it on my phone, and looking at them side by side. All right. Can you see that? Can you see how they're both reading differently? And I don't even know why. I just turned the app on and it's reading north being almost dead south and vice versa. And you got to remember too that you don't always have cell service when you're out here. It's very common for me to get out my cell phone and there's no signal, nothing. So I can't call anybody, text anybody. So the app compass is a fun thing, but I would not rely on it. It just sounds like a foolish idea, especially when this one never fails. There are a few things that I look for in a compass. One of the things is that this is not water filled in any way. This is just air inside of here. And the needle is balanced on air rather than floating in water. I've had ones that are floated in water that, first of all, the water can evaporate and the compass become like wobbly and unstable and it doesn't show true north no more. And then there's also the fact too that a lot of times the bubble will get caught underneath the compass and cause a false reading. So if you don't turn it to the side and make sure the bubble is floating on top of the needle apparatus and so forth, it can actually show you a false reading. So I try to stay away from compasses that have liquid fill or water fill. A simple needle balanced on a pivot point is all that you need. This is like my favorite compass, okay? One reason is because it also has a little magnifying glass here to help me, like if I wanted to try to start a fire that way, that would still be possible. The fact that it's got some fluorescent orange in it helps me to keep an eye on it so I don't leave it behind or drop it or lose it. It's a nice little item to have. I love different types of compasses, and I have a lot of different compasses. One of them that I have actually has a little wheel on it, so it measures across the map, so you can actually run it across the scale of miles and then run it on a route so you can actually tell how far mileage it is, no matter what map you're using. As long as it has a legend on it, you're set. Another compass that I have is, I think they call it a lensatic compass, is a surveyor's compass. It's got so many things on it, I have no idea what any of them do. But it's also important to understand too that you don't need a compass either. You can literally use the sun.
In the old days, north, east, south, and west used to be part of the culture. Knowing north, east, south, and west in First Nation cultures was not only a part of ceremonial rites, but it was also part of everyday life. You needed to know these things in order to find water, find food, and so forth. Many cultures, when it comes to north, east, south, and west, are designated colors. Take the Lakota, for instance. The Lakota north is red, east is yellow, south is white, and west is black. We remember these things as we're praying, so this becomes part of our everyday life, and it makes it a lot easier for us to remember these things. It's very important so you can understand how this works, so you can use it for navigation.
Even the simple knowledge that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west seems to be lost to most people today.
Another easy way to tell north, east, south, and west when you're out in the woods is to stick a stick into the ground. Now this stick is going to cast a shadow. It's going to cast a shadow somewhat like that. Then you're going to mark it with a stone. Then you're going to wait about 15 to 20 minutes. Just an estimate is good enough, but what you're looking for is you're looking for that shadow to move. And then place a stone there. Now, by simply placing a line or even a stick across those two stones, this will be east and that will be west every time, which means this is north and this is south. These little navigation tricks are really helpful when you're out in the woods because they're in your head. You don't ever have to worry about, forgetting anything. These are in your head. Use that brain power that we all have. As I'm always fond of saying, knowledge is the equipment that you cannot forget at home. Once you get used to how a compass is laid out, you can start understanding a few other things as well, such as how you can actually use a clock in order to tell north, south, east, and west. I usually have a digital watch, so this isn't always available to me. Just by knowing the time of day, you can actually draw this on a piece of paper. Right now, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So, with 10 o'clock, my hour hand would be here. Now, if I take my watch and I point this 10 o'clock at the sun, halfway between 10 o'clock and 12 will be due south. That works every time. It's a cool little trick. And I know in your head you're probably thinking, well, what if it's on this side of it? All works out the same. The only thing that's different about this is if you would go to the southern hemisphere of the earth, you would find just the opposite. You would need to point the 12 o'clock at the sun, and halfway between your hour, it all flips over, so it's due north. We live in the northern hemisphere, so this works. You point the hour at the sun, halfway between 12 and your hour is due south, which would make the opposite due north. Another reason to carry a little notebook with you too. These are all things to practice. These are things to practice. Do them. Go out in the woods, try them, make them work for you, learn how to use them so they're in your head, and once they're in your head, they become natural to use. When you practice this stuff, it stays with you. It really does, trust me.
Set your compass very flat and even, and it'll point north.
Now turn the map so it matches your compass bearing.
All you want to do is orient that arrow to match.
And then when you're sitting here, you're looking at this just as things are. You can tell what's in this direction, what's in that direction, and so forth.
And that's where you begin.
Often people will look at me funny for carrying a notebook and a pen.
But I find it is a very useful tool, especially if you get lost.
What I will do now is I'll make what's called a patrol map. Because the worst thing I can do is just head off into the yonder and hope that I'll find something. A lot of people don't realize that there are a lot of things that cause you to literally walk in circles. And by doing so, you never find yourself finding anything. You just literally walk in circles continually. These trees right here, these are good landmarks. They're like the biggest trees in that direction. They may not look like it through here, but they are. They're literally the biggest trees in that direction. So that's going to be my eastern landmark. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk to that tree. I'm going to take a compass bearing, and I'm going to line up another landmark from that tree. I'm not going to just go east and say, well, hopefully I'll be able to find my way back to my campsite. That's not a good idea. You may never find this campsite again. So you need to be very accurate. I'm going to go from that landmark, and I'm going to determine another landmark to walk to. And then I'll walk to that one. And from there, I'll determine another landmark, and I'll walk to that one. Take your time. The worst thing you can do is rush out here, and things happen. Things happen bad and fast. So you need to take your time. Nice and easy. Now, just from where I'm sitting right now, what I want to do is I want to mark specific landmarks.
Ground zero. This is where you are.
As you can see over here, that drops off. It's sort of like a shell, like a little step here, a terrace that comes off of that hillside. Okay, so I'm gonna draw that
On here, off to the east, around my camp. That's a drop off. Then I want to look up in that direction. What's up there?
Well, it's sort of like a hill, and it goes upward. That's actually where I came from.
And so here is going to be uphill. Now I still have to define what's in both the other directions. All right? And that's what my goal is next. Okay? I pretty much know there's nothing north. I know that there's no buildings, no people, nothing north that's going to help me. So now I have to think about the other two directions. In order to find water, common sense says to go downhill. And that's going over that ledge. But I don't know how steep it's going to get. A lot of times you can come right to a rock wall and a drop off and you can't get down. So I'm kind of curious to see what's to the other two directions, what's east and what's west. Because if I can find a way out east and west, it's preferable than trying to go down and end up falling down something or having to climb back up again.
Now, a good reason to do this patrol map is because now you've given yourself a couple of land features that can help you orient and compare your map and start looking for possible locations where you are. As I said, when I looked to the north, I couldn't see the mountains. I could see a hill, but I couldn't see these mountains through the trees. So I'm kind of wondering, if I'm down on this plateau here somewhere. I have this little drop off down to the south and east of me, and to be honest, that looks very promising to me. That could be where I am at. I might have came off the trail here, wandered around a little bit, and came right up to that. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. Right now, my best bet is to keep listening and keep staying here and see what happens. But this is starting to look very promising. This may be where I'm at. And all I did was just figure it out from a couple of little landmarks, nothing special, and a little bit of logic, because I couldn't see the mountains, and I have this little drop off here. Just those two little clues have at least given me an option of where I may be.
Another thing to do is to keep listening. Don't stop listening. As I'm sitting here, all of a sudden I realize that down in the valley below, I'm hearing some kind of machinery. I don't know what it is, but I'm hearing some kind of machinery. And that's a good sign. That means that somewhere down there there's civilization and food and water and all that other good stuff. So, but I wouldn't have known that if I was crunching through the woods. I'd only know that by sitting here quietly and paying close attention to everything around me.